Welcome to Barnyard Language, honest talk about running farms and raising families. We are Katie and Arlene, an Iowa sheep farmer and an Ontario dairy farmer, with 6 kids, 2 husbands, and a whole lot of chaos between us.
While this is a podcast for farm families, sometimes our content isn't for the whole family. So kick off your boots, reheat your coffee, and join us for some Barnyard Language.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Barnyard Language. I'm going to call this the summer edition because now that my kids are out of school, it's summer. It didn't matter that Katie's kids were already out of school for several weeks. Now that mine are done school, now it's summer. So, Katie, how is summer going in your particular location in Iowa?
Well, Arlene, I was just Googling. We are under a severe heat warning, whatever. Today, we're looking at a real feel of 42 degrees Celsius, which is a toasty 106 degrees Fahrenheit. It is like wind chill, not that bad until you go outside, I guess. The humidity's at like 9,000% or something stupid. I don't think we're quite at corn sweat season, but for the uninitiated areas like ours that do grow a lot of corn, or presumably I would imagine soybeans do the same thing. When it gets hot enough and they're growing fast enough, they actually create their own microclimate where the humidity is higher from the water that is evaporating out of the plants or transpiring, or it's been a while since college biology, so forgive me. The corn sweats.
We'll go light on the science. Yeah. Sweaty corn.
Yes. And then it makes the humidity higher, which is delightful. It does actually change the weather patterns. Plus, you get the delight of listening to professional broadcasters talk about corn sweat, which is kind of the highlight of my summer, to be honest. I got to retrieve our 2 rams from the back of our hayfield on Thursday
I'm
night,
guessing that wasn't where you put them.
It was not where we put them. It was a very long ways from where we put them. My kid's bus driver stopped to help, and I think he got a pretty good understanding of where the boy child has learned some of his
bus appropriate language.
Yes, his less appropriate language. Yes.
No, I said bus appropriate because that's where all the kids learn the swears, right?
Oh, also bus appropriate language. He has learned some very bus inappropriate language, and I think now Evan knows where it came from. So, sorry, Evan. Other than that, not a lot. Yes, I'm looking at the windows. Dogs have killed a bunch of groundhogs, so that's good. They're digging up a lot of our buildings, which is also not delightful. Took the kids to the Science Museum yesterday. That was fun, but there was a lot of yelling until we realized that at least one of them had not had lunch. And it's a long drive from here to a place big enough to have a science museum. It's about an hour and a half in a car, and 2 of the bridges are closed, which, when you have to cross the Mississippi, does complicate matters.
There's no barges or ferries anymore.
There is a car ferry, but my child refused to take it, and I don't know how often it was running on a Sunday morning anyway. How are things at your place, Arlene?
Well, like I said, school is done. So this is actually just our, fourth day kind of summer vacation, I guess. The cast kind of splint that my youngest got from a fall at school and fracturing his arm gets to come off next week. So that is good because we were also under a heat warning for the next little while. He has taken it off. He has taken it off a few times to swim already. I figure since the doctor said he could take it off to have a shower, that swimming is pretty much the same thing. So it seems to be healing well. So that is good that is almost finished. His fishing club has started, so that was fun. We went for our first night, and they gave all the kids a bunch of new gear. So his tackle box is overflowing. We may have to upgrade to a bigger one. He's not the sportiest kid, but we live in an area with tons of lakes and streams and rivers and all kinds of stuff. So we were pretty excited to find a fishing club with some expert anglers who want to share their knowledge with some kids who are interested in fishing. So I think that'll be one of our main activities for summer. And kid number 2 graduated officially from high school. He got his diploma. He wore the hat, all the things. So that was really exciting and fun to watch him and his friends cross the stage and do all the graduation stuff. So it feels weird to I find, especially with little boys, like you look at a picture of them in kindergarten and they kind of just the same face follows them right up to grade 12. So it was kind of strange. All the grad pictures were up on a big screen with their future plans, and then in the corner there was a little picture of them as kids, and there were so many of them I could pick out from school field trips and birthday parties and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty fun to be able to pass that milestone. And so now we're in residence room prep mode. He's thinking about things that he might want to move to school with him and making social plans for the rest of the summer. And on the farm side, it is sunny and hot, so that means, and no rain for a few days, so that means some dry hay is getting made. I was just on a parts run before we came onto this recording, so that gives you an idea of how things are going. There was an issue with the baler that a technician had already come to the fields to check on, and then I think they decided that it was the wrap that was part of the issue, so I went to get a new roll of bale wrap, and there seemed to be a few successful bales without my husband having to get on and off the tractor again. So fingers crossed that field is going to get baled and those bales will get undercover soon. And Canada Day is coming up, so we'll probably do something. I don't know what, but hopefully there'll be a lake involved and maybe a few hours out of the barn. So that is the stuff that is happening at the end of June, early July at our farm in Ontario.
I should have mentioned, I guess, that 4th of July is coming up this weekend. And we have the same friends that we do New Year's Eve with, where we celebrate New Year's at lunchtime instead of the middle of the night, because we have little kids. Their oldest is a week older than our oldest. 4th of July, they have a pond on their farm where they park their camper, and there's a barn, and there's running water, and we go there and cook out. And it's delightful because it's like 4 miles from their house. So all the fun of camping with none of the discomfort of actually being away from home. It's nice too to be able to start earlier in the evening and do all that.
That's right, and not be too far away from all the livestock that don't care that it's either the 1st or the 4th of July.
Yeah. Arlene, funny story about little boys having the same faces all the way through, because they really do. We had some neighbors over here the other day, some good friends, and I mentioned that the boy child looks so much like our neighbor's son who just graduated high school. And they looked a little shocked. And then I said something else about, because they know the neighbor's son from local small town stuff, and they looked really puzzled. And then I realized that they did not know that the neighbor is Jim's cousin, and that it was not scandalous that our children
You were not making a claim of parenthood or something?
such a resemblance. Because, yes, I think there was some questions about my moral standing happening there. It was like, no.
Or your husband's?
Yeah. I suppose I hadn't thought about it that direction. But yes, it's not scandalous. It's just that they look that much alike.
Yeah, no scandal in the neighborhood yet.
Well, plenty of scandal in the neighborhood, but not about that. So not about us at all, really.
Yeah, not involving those particular people. Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we go ahead and introduce our guest for this week?
All right.
Podcasts are free to listen to, but they aren't free to create. Katie and I would appreciate your support as we work to build the Barnyard language community.
Patreon is an easy way for you to make a contribution that goes directly to making the show. As a member of our Patreon community, you get to watch the video version of our weekly updates, complete with questionable hairstyles and clutter. With 3 levels of support, you can choose a tier that works for you.
Keep the podcast going by becoming a patron today at patreon.com/barnyardlanguage. Today, we are happy to be talking to Cassandra Row, who's joining us from Nebraska. So, Cassandra, we start each of our interviews with the same question, and this is your way to introduce yourself to our listeners. So we're always asking our people, what are you growing? Which for a lot of our farmers, they talk about crops and livestock, but will also tell us about kids and businesses and all kinds of other stuff. So, Cassandra, what are you growing?
Primarily, I'm growing 3 children, 9, 6, and 4 at the time we're recording. And we've got kind of a mini accidental homestead we are also growing along the same time. So that includes the garden plus all of the critters. They've all been here with the exception of goats because my husband refuses to let me get some for some reason.
I saw some goats for free on our local Buy Nothing the other day, and weirdly, my husband did not seem enthusiastic.
Do not understand why.
Isn't that how accidental homesteads start? Is with free livestock from other people?
Yeah, I mean, they were listed as these fucking goats keep eating my siding, so I don't know why Jim seemed so unenthusiastic.
Surely your fences would keep them in.
Yes, obviously.
That's honestly probably most of it is my fences would not keep them in. They would be in the neighbor's yard, like my turkeys every day. And besides that, I help my husband grow his own ag service business with trenching and welding, and I'm growing my own marketing business along the side of that. So lots of things going.
That is a lot of different things.
So, how do you accidentally start a homestead? I know how that would happen at my house.
The free goats.
Yeah, free goats. I mean, I think that is how it started. Really cheap goats, anyway.
So it kind of started when I started staying home after my second was born, and we'll probably get into more of that later. But it started with just a garden, and we went from double income and one kid to half the income. And how are we going to feed everybody? So that's honestly how it started, was the garden. And then we're like, well, right before COVID hit, we're like, chickens sound fun. Let's get some chickens. Those look easy. And it kind of started with a surprise box from Cackle Hatchery. So in that, we wound up with chickens and guineas and turkeys and ducks.
That is a delightful surprise.
Right? It was an awesome box. And then my husband told me I couldn't get any more after like 3 of them. Because we just had too many birds. Too many birds. So yeah. And then from there, we went to the milk cow. And now we have her heifer calf, which is half beef, half milk. So yeah, we've got all of it. And we do pigs in the summertime and butcher chickens in the summertime now too. So completely one step at a time. Looked back and went, oh, I guess we now have a homestead. Did not intend to start this way.
Arlene, this is the political science we really need, is we should look at whether the improved maternity leave in Canada means fewer accidental homesteads. Because I feel like a lot of families, like, the woman starts staying home because childcare is stupid expensive, and then it's a slippery slope, and now you've got 2 dairy cows and goats eating your siding. So I'm wondering if the paid mat leave helps with that.
Maybe. Now, the other thing is because we have a longer mat leave, maybe people near the end of it are starting to think, I've got a whole year off. Or in the middle of it, they're like, well, my baby's sleeping some of the time. I could go ahead and get some chickens now. That does require some research for sure.
So what is your ag background?
So I've been in ag my whole life. I started in town, I guess, the very beginning, but my dad always farmed with his dad. And then we moved to the farm as he got more involved. He was an agronomist for a long time. And then slowly stepped back from that as he stepped into more farming, and they transitioned that. Talked my dad into getting sheep for 4-H 25 years ago, and they're still there. So that's one of those we call the 4-H project that went out of control. And now we get to practice who reins each other in every now and then. From there, got a animal science degree. I was going to go to vet, decided, nah, not for me anymore. Came back to Nebraska, did a stint, and got my master's in ruminant nutrition. So I've done full circle, worked at a research center for a while, came back home, was helping my husband with his family farm. So we came back to his family farm and did direct to beef sales. We had our own custom yard for a while. Yeah, we've kind of been in ag our whole life. Lots of different areas of it, but
For sure.
And where did you go for your animal science degree?
so I actually went down to K-State. So the lovely Flint Hills.
I grew up in Ames, and Iowa State and K-State and Texas A&M are kind of the biggest animal science programs.
I interviewed at Ames and K-State, and I landed in K-State, and my sister went to Ames. We toured the exact same 3 colleges, and I went to Kansas and she went to Iowa. She never left Iowa. I came back.
What was the third one
Nebraska,
that neither of you went to? Okay.
because at that time they had the partnership, so I could do part of it in state and then come back.
So, from the description earlier, you mentioned that you're homesteading and that your husband has an ag related but not a farm business. So, we're going to just jump right into this discussion because we know a little bit about you and your situation. So, before we start, I just want to say that any of the discussions we have today about bankruptcy are personal and are your personal experiences, and anyone who is in a similar situation should definitely contact their own professionals when it comes to legal and financial matters. That none of this should be considered advice, but more just one family's experience. And we just wanted to share what Cassandra has learned, but that doesn't take the place of professional advice for anyone who happens to be listening. So with that in mind, Katie and I happen to know, because you have shared with us, that you and your husband declared bankruptcy in 2024, which I think for a lot of families, and especially farming families, there's a lot of fear around that, and even probably some sense of shame and guilt and lots of other emotions. Why don't you talk about what led to that decision and what the situation was that you and your husband found yourselves in?
Yeah, so that's actually a really long story. So we'll start it. His family farm has been here for well over 100 years, so roots run deep on this ground, but wise decisions were not always made. And that's in any business. Some of those decisions go back to his grandpa, some of them were his dad, some of them were our own. And a lot of it ultimately was a culmination of all of them hitting at the perfect time. So we probably should have stopped farming back in 2019, right before the world just kind of fell apart. Instead, my husband, in his youthful pride and no, this is our family farm, we actually took it over management at that point. Did not do a proper financial analysis. We knew the numbers were bad. We didn't realize exactly how bad it was. But we did float for another, it was into 19 we took over. We did 20, 21, 22, and all of 23. And in there, we actually legally transitioned the ownership to my husband and I of the family farm, which allowed his dad to step back. His grandpa was pretty much out of the picture. He still held the land at that point, but he was mostly taking care of grandma at that point. So yeah, it was bad crop years, drought, which means we're in irrigated country, which is great because we always have water, but it also means lots more expenses, pivots breaking down. We had 2 or 3 years in a row that took out over half our crop. We were lucky to farm in a very concentrated area, which was great. We were always next to the shop. It also meant if something got a storm, everything usually got hit. So we wound up reorganizing, sold some of the ground off, brought the debt load down to where it was at least manageable. The bank was happy again. And then we continued to farm. We made it through that season. And right before Thanksgiving, we lost all of our land leases. And that kind of started the spiral of, we knew after harvest numbers were in, we were probably headed down that road, my husband and I. But we were trying to get as many as little local bills paid as we possibly could before we started. So the process actually started in the fall of 2003 as we started liquidating.
23 or 03?
2023. So it is a very long process, and that they did not tell us when we started into the liquidation, where they were like, yeah, it'll be 6 months or whatever. We were not actually finalized until 2025. It was almost a full year and a half before we got through the official court system.
Sure. So I guess when the writing was on the wall and you knew that it was time, what were your first steps or your first calls?
Before the bank had called the notes, so step back into October, we know this is where we're headed. And we'd been doing some of the steps, just trying to get rid of all the extra stuff. Any generational farm has stuff laying around for generations just because we just have never moved it. So we were selling a lot of that stuff. We were selling anything extra we could, keeping track of stuff as far as where our numbers were, what grain was left to be contracted, what much was, so we could keep the bank informed, because at this point the bank is calling at least monthly to figure out, okay, what are we looking at? And then once the notes were called, at that point, you don't have any control over anything that goes in. At that point, goes straight to the bank. So that was a hard part for us, honestly, because then we could no longer pay any of the other bills because the bank got first dibs on everything.
Right. But those people are still contacting you.
And that's the hardest part is like, okay, can we sell something on the side over here and get somebody else paid? And once you actually file legally, you can't do any of that. But that does stop the interest and it stops the phone calls.
One thing I really wanted to circle back to is that you said that it was multiple generations of things going wrong. And I think so much of the shame of these situations comes from it being your name on the filing. Of all the farmers I know who've had serious financial problems, and it's a lot, I think one of them maybe was actually solidly bad decisions from one generation, and that being the generation that ended up going bankrupt. And I think we really miss that it's not usually one thing or one decision, and it's basically never just the people whose name is on it. Here's not a good way to be like, it wasn't just us and throw all that out there. The sheriff's sale listing doesn't come with 100 years of bad decisions laid out in the newspaper, which is probably good because that would probably be even worse than just having your name on it. But I think it's critical to point out that it's not one thing unless it's an act of God situation or somebody who just never should have had more than $5 at a time.
Yeah, and that was something we had to wrestle with a lot, especially there in the beginning. There was a lot of wrestling and doubt and wondering what could we have done wrong or done differently. And honestly, there was a lot of things like with anything with farming, it's out of our control. You don't have control of the weather, you don't have control of the storms, you don't have control of the markets, you don't have control of all the decisions from the generations past. So one of the things that was hard for us and kind of honestly set it up was all the way back in the 80s. We started kicking stuff down the road back then.
Honestly, I feel like if you're only kicking back to the 80s, you're doing pretty good. If you're under 50 years, you're really pretty.
And a lot of that was bad transition plan between it would have been Jeremy's great grandpa and grandpa. That was just not a good transition, but it's how they did it back then. So what do you do? The one who really kind of got the short end of the stick and the whole thing was actually Jeremy's dad, because he spent literally his entire life on this farm and he has nothing to show for it. And he's honestly retirement age. He's helping the neighbor now because farmers just never stop. But he paid for his dad's decisions his entire life, his own decisions, and now he has his house left. And that's it. Jeremy and I were lucky enough, we're young enough, we can start over and build again. He's past that.
When you talk about liquidation and you're getting rid of the old stuff, but you're also getting rid of memories and the physical place where generations lived, were there things that you were able to keep and hold on to?
Yes. And this kind of goes back to you're going to need to get legal advice because there are different types of bankruptcy. It is not one is all. So the one we actually opted for is called Chapter 12. So it's more of a restructuring bankruptcy. But at the time, early 2023, get the years right, Jeremy started trenching and welding. So we had all of that equipment, all of the pickups were in the farm's name, our house is in the farm's name. So by declaring Chapter 12, we could keep those key assets that would help us to keep business going while we liquidated all of the farm stuff. That is one of those you have to get legal advice on which option is actually best for you. So that was the best option for us because we got to keep our house.
Right. And there were assets there to help in his new business that weren't connected to the agriculture part of things.
Well, I think that's what's so scary too is that, especially for folks who never had careers outside of the ag space, what else are you supposed to do? It's not the same as working for a different business that's going through bankruptcy and restructuring, and you can just jump to another bank or another store or another whatever and just keep your career up. If farming is what you know how to do, and then you can't do it, that is a problem.
Most of 2024 was a lot of wrestling with identity, honestly. Because at that point, what are you? You're no longer the farmer. You're no longer the farmer's wife. Who are you? And a lot of that was just stripping away and figuring out, okay, what is your actual identity? What does that mean? I think it was Jenna Oshner actually pointed it out the best. I've heard different versions, but her version was honestly the one that stuck. Was what's your character? When you boil it down, when you strip absolutely everything away, what you do, whether it's the farmer's wife, the business owner, the mom, the wife, who are you when there is nothing left? That's your actual identity. Once I got a hold of that, I was like, okay, I can anchor onto that, and then the rest of it can shift.
My husband and I went to a farm retreat. I think we had one kid at the time, maybe two, who knows. Time, it's a thing. And having that time to really focus on what our highest priority was and to get on the same page about what that highest priority was and realizing that it was not the farm business was so helpful for us. And I think it tends to take some painful moments to have that time to figure out what's really important and who you really are. But it can be tremendously powerful, especially for rebuilding or pivoting or wherever you're at with that. How do you look at bankruptcy in the context of a family, especially with the family farm and explaining that your kids are, would you say, 9, 6, and 4? So at least one of them is old enough to get some idea of some of this. It sounds like you were able to stay in your house, but obviously they're going to notice when new cars start showing up and taking stuff. And so how do you handle that part of it? Let's just lay out your entire personal life. You came here voluntarily.
It's honestly, it's an ever revolving, and it's interesting to watch them process, because as we were going through stuff, like, you get the high level, because my oldest two remember it. The youngest has no idea what's going on. She's just full throttle wherever she's going and not paying attention. But the older two, like, they noticed, especially because at the same time as we're liquidating all of our farm, the cows are leaving. So that was something my oldest always did with her dad, was go feed the cows. We're no longer feeding the cows. For my son, it was his favorite tractor left. And just those pieces are honestly, and they're like, why? Why do we have to sell that? Because we owe these people money and we got to pay them somehow. So it's a lot of revisiting those conversations and honestly just trying to teach them, like, okay, this is how we have to manage money. And if you take on debt, you have to pay it back somehow. That's an ever revolving constant, because it comes back up at the most random times. You're like, I have no idea where that came from. But that's just how they process. So
I know too, I got laid off from my corporate job last year, and my kids are 8 and 9 pretty recently, and trying to balance not scaring them and not putting adult worries on kids with them knowing how the world works and understanding things like, if our income is now less than 25% of what it was when I was working full time, there are things that mommy said yes to without even thinking about it last year that mommy is not saying yes to now. And trying to balance that while still remembering too that simply by virtue of being the 5th generation farm kids on a family farm in Iowa, we're so far from how so much of the world lives. But also they don't really care because they're 8 and 9. There's only so much that kids will empathize with. And it's a fucking lot.
it is.
It is amazing, too, how kids can bring up something so hard when you're least expecting it and just sucker punch you with it, right?
I swear to God, they keep lists.
The pet who died, we got to talk about grandma dying, just when you're least expecting. And it is grief, right? Your family lost things that were important to you. And that's a part of grieving. And kids do grieving in their own way, like you said, and adults have to grieve that loss too. How has your relationship with your father-in-law and your grandfather-in-law been through this process, if you feel comfortable talking about that?
Honestly, my in-laws are saints. I don't know how they do it. One thing you will find out going through bankruptcy, you will figure out who's in your corner and who's not. And you find that out very quickly. We have a very good core group of friends. Not all of them are in ag. We've leaned heavily on them. And this is family too. Neighbors that you thought were in your corner will disappear. Neighbors that you didn't think had any idea what was going on will be there in a heartbeat. And the same thing with family. You will find out who's actually there standing in your corner, fighting with you, fighting for you. And our in-laws, my mother and father-in-law, are some of those people that they 100%, she's got my kids half the time, I swear, because she's just a saint. But yeah, there's been a lot of just going back and forth with them and processing. And the best thing, honestly, for my husband was hearing from his dad, this was not entirely your fault. And just that confirmation that, okay, yeah, it fell on us, but it was not just us that took it down. So that's been good. But grandpa, it's okay. It's complicated.
Yeah. And families are, right?
He's still grandpa, but it's complicated. With some of his aunts, it's complicated. We still talk. We're still sociable, but we're just not that close.
That makes sense. And everyone has their own feelings, but the ones who are involved are the ones that carry the burden, right? So,
Yep. And the ones deepest involved are going to have the strongest feelings.
yes, that's right. What would you want another farming parent to know who is in a difficult financial situation and feels like they're the only ones or they don't know what to do?
Number one, you're not alone. There's a lot of people out there who are struggling. Nobody talks about it. Number two, it's not the end. It's a messy middle. It's a firestorm, but you're not alone. Find people that are in your corner, your spouse, lean on them, because there will be days you will feel like you are fighting multiple fires at the same time and you don't know where each other are. But remember, you're fighting the same battle, ultimately.
And I think for a lot of people, we're heading into a season after a bad season, and everybody knows it in terms of the prices of commodities and the prices of inputs. The math is not working out that well. It doesn't math. And we talked about decisions before, but like you said, there's so much that's out of our control. And when the math doesn't work for a few years in a row, when we're all close to that line all the time, it's not really about our decisions a lot of the time. It's just this is the industry that we're in and it doesn't math. So I think that people need to remember that you can't take it too personally. And if it's not you and your neighbor, be the neighbor that shows up for the person, not the one who.
Not the vulture. Nobody likes the vulture.
Yeah, that's right.
What helped you the most with keeping things normal for your kids, especially from other families with kids, including your kids in things? We have, like most farmers, friends who are going through some serious financial difficulties and figuring out how to help keep things as normal as possible for their kiddos, because adults are adults and that's a little different, but especially knowing families with little ones. What was most helpful to you, or what would have been most helpful to you?
Keep inviting. Our core group of friends honestly comes from, I guess they used to all be over in a town about 15 minutes away from us. But it's our core church group. We've now dispersed a little bit, but we all come back to that same church. My kids are homeschooled, so they don't have to deal with a lot of the drama in school, which honestly buffered and sheltered them a lot because people talk. You can't escape it, especially in small towns. You can put flags out in the field for a test plot and you're building a building. Like, it's hilarious to the point it's almost fun to play with them. So word gets out, but keeping the kids invited to different things. That was some of the best things that our friends did was, can we take the kids for a little bit, even for a couple hours, or offering to watch the kids. The amount of times that they have stepped in to shuttle our kids someplace or just watch them All of our auctions were online, so we didn't have to deal with that auction day people, which helped immensely because I don't know if I could have done that. I probably would have shipped my kids down to my mom's 20 minutes away.
And maybe you too.
Yeah, quite possibly, honestly. We would have hung out with the sheep all day. That was probably honestly the best thing is just keep inviting them. They may say no, and that's okay. Don't take it personally. Just keep inviting them. They know stuff is going on, whether you tell them or not.
I know this question isn't always productive, so you don't have to answer it if there's nothing that comes to mind or if you don't feel it's useful. But looking back, is there anything you would have done differently? I'm just thinking in the context of someone else who might be in this situation who's thinking with hindsight that maybe there's something that you and your husband might have done to change things or even look at things differently.
Get a good financial advisor, someone who's going to be brutally honest with you and actually help you look at the numbers. And sometimes being in a financial place, you can take a hard look at the numbers and figure out what's making money and what's not, and cut out the stuff that's not making money. Get a good financial planner and somebody who is going to actually not just sugarcoat it, say, yeah, this could work with a moonshot.
Yeah, in the perfect year with the perfect conditions.
Someone who's going to actually look at it realistically and tear your numbers apart. Shoot holes through it. One of my favorite classes actually in grad school was a systems class, and I was the TA. And one of my jobs was to shoot holes in every student's plan. It's the greatest job ever. Loved it. Not being malicious, but like, here's the real life, and I'm going to shoot every hole so you actually succeed later. Find someone who's going to do that to your number.
It's always better to find the holes on paper in theory before it's in court or in your fences or whatever. The planning stage is always the best time to find a problem.
Yep. So yeah, find a financial advisor, consultant, whatever you want to call it, who's going to do that for you. That's probably the biggest thing I would have done differently.
So what have you and your husband transitioned to after farming? And how do you see yourselves being involved in ag? What's next? Llamas? Alpacas? Shrimp?
Fun fact, there was a shrimp farm just 5 miles from us. But no, he continues to work in ag trenching and welding service. We took a year off in 2024. Farmer is always a farmer, but we did start helping my dad in 25. Helped him with harvest in 24, and then 25 we actually started stepping in and helping more with the planting and the crop work. So we've transitioned to helping them and are looking at that. Not really sure what all that's going to look like yet. We're playing that one year by year, but we are having more open conversations like, okay, this is what's actually going on. What's stuff looking like for you? This is where our situation is. My parents are also saints, honestly, because they have helped us a lot. They're at a different stage in life than my in-laws. My in-laws were wrapped up in our same mess. They've been able to step in and help buffer us when we couldn't make ends meet or cover that bill right there so we could keep stuff moving. So we've got a rolling tab with them that we're still working on paying back. But that's kind of where we're at, is we're helping them farm, still involved in the sheep, still running the homestead. My husband does fencing. He's constantly on some different job, whether it's building a fence or digging up a pivot line or something. So he's doing that, and then I'm helping with my marketing, more the rural community, not necessarily the farmers, but kind of keeping that community alive, because small towns die without the businesses there.
In case we have not pried deeply enough into your personal life, Cassandra, how do you keep assuming that your relationship functions as a team? How do you keep being a team and focusing on pushing back against the outside world instead of each other? Because it is so easy to snipe at each other, even on a good day, that I'm guessing the stress of this financial situation, especially with 4 generations involved, and it being a family that you married into and is his birth family, and you're still married, so apparently you figured it out at least a little bit, or you're about to tell us all about your divorce lawyer. Uh, how do you focus your energy? Let's put it that way.
It's honestly reminding yourself, number one, staying rooted in the truth, keeping in mind that you're not fighting each other. We have went and got coaching. It's not been easy when you go through something like this, but knowing that we're always on each other's side. And sometimes it's getting an outside coach or counselor. Coaches are usually easier to find that you can match with and go, yeah, you guys are fighting different fires, but this is the same battle. Your backs may be to each other at the moment, but you are still in this together. Praying for each other, that's been huge. And keeping just those roots deep and knowing no matter what happens, we still have each other. Something that hit us as we were in the thick of it, those friends and family that were in our corner, like they were rooting for us, fighting with us, they would usually call, we'd have conversations, they'd ask how we were doing, how the other person was doing, and then they would always come back to, how's your marriage? How are you doing together? Because it's obvious, like, stuff like this either breaks you or it makes you stronger, and there's no in between. So it's kind of keeping that in perspective of, you get to choose how you react and where you're going to put your energy, and that's really the only thing you can control.
So what I'm hearing you say is, remember that divorce lawyers are really expensive.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So I'm trying to think of other questions that someone who is potentially facing bankruptcy would want to know. And the one thing I wonder about is, what does this mean for your financial future? What does bankruptcy mean for you going forward? Because I think that's something that people can be scared of.
Yeah, it is terrifying. It's still terrifying at times. So when you go into bankruptcy, you get locked into a plan, and then you are responsible for paying back. In our case, Chapter 12, the amount that we wound up paying back against our debt was the value of the assets left, is how they kind of figure it. Is like, okay, if we would sell everything, this is how much they would get. So this is how much we're going to pay back to everybody. So you get locked into that plan, and that's terrifying because sometimes those numbers are scary, especially when the crop price bottoms out or the work dries up for months because it's raining where you need to be building, or it hasn't rained so you can't get the cows out, or just different weather factors. We are still very much tied into the weather. I won't sugarcoat it and say that it's all of a sudden rainbows and sunshine and easy. We're still in the thick of it, and it's still hard. We still sit down once a week, sometimes every other week, to look at the numbers and say, okay, here's where we're at. Here's what needs to be paid on our personal level. Here's what business bills we have coming up. This is what our income's looking like. And keeping those channels open. Like, we're still in the thick of it, and we're 3 years out almost now. So that is scary, I'm not going to lie. But it's not the end of the world either.
Thank you for sharing that, because I feel like sometimes there is that misconception that once you file for bankruptcy, then it just all goes away and you get to start over fresh.
Find someone who can do your taxes really well too, because that was something we got hit with, was when you sell everything, all of a sudden Uncle Sam thinks he knows more too. And you're like, oh, did not plan on that.
I think it's important to remember too, though, that as horrible as the process of finding out how bad things are generally is, it's often a relief to know exactly how bad it is and exactly what you're dealing with, rather than it just being a like, oh, we owe somebody a shit ton of money, but is it 5,000 or is it 5 million? It's good to have a real solid grasp on how screwed you are. And apologies if I just taught your children a bunch of bad new words.
So this isn't necessarily a lighter question, but it's a transition. We're going to go into the parenting stuff, which we've already talked about a little bit, but we ask a lot of our guests this question because it's kind of that moment where things really change in a big way. So when you reflect on the time when you first became a parent, what comes up in your memories about those first weeks and months?
It's always interesting how every kid is different. So my first one, honestly, life didn't change that much, but I was also dealing with a lot of trauma, for lack of a better word. Her pregnancy was very anxiety ridden. honestly. And then her birth was very traumatic. And I dealt with that for probably at least a year. It was more than a year after that. So day to day life would have looked exactly the same. We just tagged her with us and did whatever we still did. She just kind of tagged along. She's the only one. It's easy. But that's when I probably honestly made the transition of kind of digging into my health, my mental health, my physical health. And she kind of was the catalyst for a lot of changes. That was the hardest one, I think. The second one was a breeze, as far as it could be. It was just a lot of life changes after him because I did start staying home. So we had to completely rewrite our rhythm.
I find it interesting the people who have experienced traumatic birth in the perception that as long as the baby's healthy, that's all that matters, right? And a lot of people don't really want to hear about, but hold on, that experience was a lot for me, and I'm still not okay. Might not be able to see it, but it's still there. And in talking to other parents, there are so many people who have dealt with that, and yet it's not talked about often enough, because as long as the baby's okay, then you just carry on and forget about that.
Yeah. Something I had told my grandmother at the time because she never talked about anything with birth either, but very much just like have them every 2 years and everything will be fine. Very much that as long as baby's healthy, it's fine. And I finally told her one day was physical scars heal, the emotional scars take a lot longer. And that was the last I ever heard about having kids again from her. Get emotional help if you need to. Mine was physical as well, in that my scar did not heal correctly. There was a lot of extra scar tissue wrapped up in there, which is why I dealt with it for so long, because I didn't take care of it. I didn't know what was going on either. But once we dug through all of that, everything else resolved.
That's another hard thing, right? Is that, especially if it's your first, you don't know what healing should feel like. And once you get that 6-week check, it's like, there you go. The medical system is almost the same, right? Baby's healthy, you're healthy, carry on. And sometimes it takes a long time and a lot of insistence on the injured person's part to say, this isn't normal, but how do you know what's normal and how long healing should take and all of those things? And we often get told, oh, it's fine. That's the way it's supposed to be. And it takes a long time. And sometimes you have a little person in the doctor's office with you who's crying while they're trying to look at the scar tissue. So hard to really get vulnerable there too.
This reminds me, Cassandra, when our first was born, we have a lovely older neighbor lady who brought over some toys that she had bought off the TV. And one of them I finally threw away because it was so horrible. And it was in the dumpster and I could still hear it talking. It was an airplane that would go, "Are you my pilot?" And I could still hear it for a week. It was in there just talking to itself. It's like, this is somehow the essence of parenthood right here. So what's your favorite thing about raising kids with the connection to egg that you have?
So many things, honestly. They have such a grasp on life that most kids never get. They understand the cycle of life. Like, this lives and then it dies, and it feeds something when it dies, whether it's feeding us, whether it's feeding the bugs. They just understand that cycle of life in a way most people honestly don't. They also are very independent, very creative, and they're a lot more capable than people give them credit for. Like, my oldest came down here to make sure that I got chores done.
She was checking on you.
Yes, I was like, yes, I did actually get them done, because we have started where they are responsible for part of the chores, mostly so I can do other things.
Was she prepared to be helpful, or did she just want to remind you that you had a thing?
She's slightly incentivized because I do pay them to do their chores now.
If there were any that were undone, then she might be able to make some extra change.
Yes, that was the real motivation. Is she's very much money motivated to earn money. So, like,
yeah, maybe there's a few extras that she could check off.
Yeah, I've started paying my children a penny for every screw or nail they find in the yard or driveway. So far, we've collected 25, and we started yesterday.
Wow. And you're going to save all those tires too.
Yeah, in which I walked by my car this morning and went, oh, I have a flat tire.
Penny for me. I found the nail.
Right, found it.
I feel like a tire repair usually runs me somewhere between 25 and $50. You could get a lot of nails and screws picked up for what that runs. Yeah.
I'm like, I can afford to pay them a penny for every screw, like just in saving the tires.
So, other than trying to get them to leave you alone while you record a podcast, what is your biggest parenting struggle these days?
Oh, the attitudes and the sass. My oldest has my mini me to a T, complete with the attitude. And we clash a lot. It's figuring out how to parent myself out of her and keep the good parts.
You keep the independence and the stubbornness, but not always in my direction. I think we all have an oldest daughter. We know.
Someday we'll be real grateful for raising such strong women. Today is not that day, probably, but someday, someday we'll be grateful for it.
Yep. Yeah. And our favorite saying around here is our children will lead. They will lead really well something at some point.
I keep telling people I'd rather have kids that are a little too strong-willed and need to be reminded to slow their roll a little than to have kids who will go along with anything that anybody tells them. I may not be grateful for that today, but someday I will be. So what's a piece of parenting advice that you would want to share with another farm parent or a non-farm parent, equal opportunity?
Oh, this is a struggle because I feel like I could use all the advice right now, but don't be afraid to take your kids with you. We actually had, I guess it was last Sunday, just a great reminder of one of the reasons we do this life is our kids get to go with us. That's part of why we chose to homeschool, is so we're not locked into, I have to have them someplace at a certain time and somebody has to pick them up. But they learn so much on the go. Don't be afraid to take them with you. My son was learning how to wire lights under the pickup last Sunday afternoon with his dad, just because it was something fun to do with dad. And they also pick up on so much more. My husband always joked when we were farming, if he sent me out to run any sort of equipment, he always sent our oldest daughter with me because she had run with him enough that she knew what was probably going to happen and what button to push to make it fix it. Because I'm not mechanically inclined. As long as it's working well, I can drive it. That's about it.
As a team, you guys were perfect. Her legs weren't long enough, but she had the technical skills.
Yep. So she could usually, before we called daddy, figure out which button we needed to push to fix the baler or get the payloader to run or whatever. So yeah, don't be afraid to take them with you because they are learning the whole time.
You already talked about starting to pay your kids for chores. How are you starting to talk about money and finances with your children?
That is, again, an ongoing conversation as we kind of figure it out ourselves.
Yeah, and I think it is one of those things that grows with them, right? What works when they're little is not the same conversation as you have as they get older.
And my biggest struggle is I have the perfect idea of how I know the system should work. And okay, here's the step that we're at, and we're not ready to all of it. So that's honestly my biggest struggle is I have all these things I want to do, but we're not there yet. And it kind of just starts right now with, okay, this is what you're earning. Now you get to keep so much just to spend and do whatever you want with, but your money has to have a job. So where are we going to put it to give it a job to do something? And that's something also my husband and I have been learning as we've listened to different podcasts and got more money smart, if that's a thing. Getting these different systems in place to set ourselves up for better success, but then also set our kids up. When they get to the point where they're 18, 20, they're ready to do something, they have the means without taking on a whole bunch of debt. They'll probably take on some, but they will know how to handle that, how to manage it, and what is a good decision, like taking on debt to earn you more money, or a poor decision, because there is good debt and there's bad debt, and learning the differences.
So we ask all of our guests, if you were going to dominate a category at the county fair, what would it be? And categories can be real or made up to ensure that you win.
Oh, I would like to believe I could still be the round robin showman champion.
So at your county fair, how many animals would that be? Like different types?
So for us, at the time I was showing, it was beef, pigs, sheep, and horse. They've since added goats because we've got a lot of goats at the county fair now. But it was dominating the showman in all of those. And I will admit that I had the upper hand in that because there was me and 3 other sisters, And between the four of us, we had something in every barn. So I knew just enough about all of them to do well.
So we will go ahead and move into our cussing and discussing segment. If you are a listener and want to send us yours, you can go to speakpipe.com/barnyard language to leave us a voice memo, or you can send us an email at barnyardlanguage@gmail.com and we will read it for you. Katie, what do you have to cuss and or discuss this week?
So I'm not overly much a people person. I've never really been a kid person. And before I had kids, I'd see people with the mama bear sweatshirt or whatever and be like, oh, that's cute. I was so unprepared for the level of visceral protectiveness and rage that I have now when people hurt kids. And not just my kids, any kids, anywhere. I was not prepared. I went to a Quaker high school. I'm a pretty big pacifist. I never thought that I would legitimately look at an adult and feel totally fine about putting them into a wood chipper. I always thought that was a cargo thing, but I'll tell you what, some folks, and the justice system is deeply flawed, don't get me wrong, but if you get pulled up on 100 counts of something, you did it. There's no wrongness there. And I was not prepared for having that reaction of just yeeting somebody into outer space and being done with them. And even on smaller levels, just this weekend we hosted a birthday party for our son and his little friends. And all of those kids are loved, but some of them obviously aren't told how much people are happy to see them as often as some of the other kids. And I mean, that's obviously not a wood chipper offense. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going that hard.
There is a scale to the wood chipper.
Yeah, I was not prepared for how that would feel, to see how different our normal reaction in our household is than what some other kids are growing up with. Because my kids are a tremendous pain in the ass, but they know how much we love them. Even though they also know how much of a tremendous pain in the ass they are.
That's what keeps them balanced.
Yes, it's important to balance that. Cassandra, what do you have to cuss and discuss?
I was trying to think of this morning while I was doing chores. I'm like, oh, so many options. Probably my biggest pet peeve right now is just putting stuff away.
My son went to school this morning with one black Minecraft crock and one purple crock of his sister's.
Because that's what he could find, or that's what he wanted to wear?
That's all we could find. Speaking of husbands and that, my husband said, well, maybe we should just put things away when we're done with them. I'm like, well, we have a shoe rack. We literally each have a basket that the shoes we wear in the most go into. We have a 4-year-old Australian Shepherd who was carrying the Crocs around, which is at least part of why we couldn't find them.
So if you could tell her to put things away when she's done with them, that would be ideal.
Am I supposed to take the shoes off my children's feet and put them into the basket? What? Anyway, I'm sorry that I just cussed and discussed your cussing and discussing.
But still, it is the same because there are shoe bins for every child in the garage. They don't even have to make it into the house. Just take them off in the garage. And I looked the other day, we were trying to get ready to go, and my youngest, who has the most shoes of any child I have ever seen, we could find one shoe and one sandal, and they were the same foot.
She couldn't even follow Kate's son's.
Where are all your shoes?
Why, I have enough right mittens for my children's entire elementary school. Do we have any left mittens?
No, those ones are gone.
Yeah, that's why my gloves keep disappearing too now, because the older two are now tall enough they can reach my glove bin.
Because you put your stuff away.
They can't find their own, so they started stealing mine. I'm like, no. There's nothing more frustrating than going out when it's freezing and I can't find my gloves.
They were in the bin.
Right where I put them, where I always put them. Nope. But yes, that's my biggest.
Arlene, what do you have to discuss?
Today I happened to be recording in my youngest's room because we're getting new appliances, which is just like the highlight of my month, year maybe, I don't know. But Just looking around, I just love kids' bedrooms when they start to like display stuff and like their little collections and like all the things that they love. It's so cute to look around each of their rooms or spaces that a couple of my kids share, but to see the things that they have held on to, you know, from when they were little. Or in this particular room, there's a lot of dinosaurs, but also anytime we've been picking rocks and there's something with a fossil in it, it has to come into the house, or there's little bits of rocks and things that people have brought him from beach vacations or times that we've been to the ocean, and he collects all those things and brings them home in his suitcase. So I just love seeing their personalities come out in the things that they hold on to. And then we also did some sorting this weekend because we were making room for things, and I knew I was going to have to clean up the laundry room so that the new washer and dryer could fit in there. So some stuff got sorted, and also the things that I think that they should want to hold on to and they're just fine with getting rid of. That's a whole different feeling where it's like, oh, but I have a sentimental attachment to that particular thing. They're like, yeah, you could donate it. So some of those things I might have snuck into the attic for myself. I'll probably get rid of them later, but for now I'm holding on. Cassandra, we want to thank you so much for joining us today and for being so vulnerable and open. And I really feel like it's going to connect with other people. And thank you for your honesty and for being willing to talk to us. If people want to learn more about you, the work that you're doing, or want to connect and chat, where should they find you online?
The best place to find me is actually, I've got a website with Cassandra.com, and everything from there links out. So you can find my socials there, other businesses, anything we're up to. It all links there. That's kind of the central hub for everything.
Thank you so much. It was great to meet you.
It was great to meet you guys too.
Thank you for joining us on Barnyard Language. If you enjoy the show, please support us on Patreon with a donation.
Big thanks go out to our show editor, Krista Paffrath at the Rural Podcast Network.
Please rate and review the podcast wherever you listen and follow the show so you never miss an episode.
If you want to connect with other farming families, join the private Barnyard Language Facebook group.
We are always in search of future guests for the podcast. If you or someone you know would like to chat with us, get in touch.